Hi, I'm Matt Wilkinson, and welcome to a Splice of Life Science Marketing. Jasmine and I are here today with Rohit Veerajapa, the Chief of Staff of Humantic AI. Now, Humantic AI is a personality buyer intelligence tool. I've been a big fan of their work for the last few years. Before every meeting, I receive an email with a personality assessment of who I'm going to be speaking with. And so just before we jumped on this call today, I received an email from Humantic about Ro, and apparently he's a thorough evaluator, he's rigorous and demanding, and he's precise and practical. He's less concerned about the product and more about its potential impact, and they put a lot of effort into ensuring personal success. So I'm really excited to welcome Ro onto the show today.
Thank you so much, Matt. In life, I'm a far more friendly person, but Humantic does not recognize that part of me. But we'll get to that in a bit.
I'm looking forward to that bit, and thank you for coming on the show. So really just like to understand a little bit about who you are, your role, and maybe the key performance indicator you're most focused on right now.
Okay, so maybe a bit of a background. Had my education in computer science, then started my career as a software developer, right? But I realized I had bigger ambitions. In 2011, I started up. I ran a company called Wow Labs for the next 9 years. And then fate had it in a way where I ended up working for an accelerator for the next 4.5 years, an accelerator slash fund. It is the Y Combinator equivalent in India. It's called Upeka. So, of course, there I played the role of a coach and a VC.
Mhm.
But now I'm back in the playground. So, right now, I'm here at Humantic as a chief of staff, but my primary roles is to take care of the customer success and partnership teams, right? So, Matt, you asked what is the KPI that I'm truly obsessing about right now? That would be delivering value to customers. Of course, there are lagging indicators like NPS and CSAT that you can measure them with, or leading indicators like product adoption and usage itself, right? So that's what I'm currently obsessing about. I know Humantic is a great product. It can really help people achieve great results. So I'm extremely passionate about helping people realize the value of the same. So that's what I'm trying to do right now.
I love that you said that you're back in the playground. Maybe you can help describe at a high level the problem that Humantic solves and how you're positioning Humantic today.
Okay, thank you so much, Jasmine, for asking me that question. In a blurb, if I have to say, Humantic helps sellers understand their buyers better, right? That's what we do. Now, usually I ask people in the current world, right, what is the bottleneck? Is it the seller's productivity or is it the buyer's mind share? Do we have really a dearth of sellers' hours, the number of hours that they can work? Or is it the mind share of the buyer, primarily because of the number of emails, calls, messages that they receive, right? And the overwhelming response I get is, the buyer's mind share. That is what we help solve. We help solve the buyer's mind share. We are a buyer experience tool. So we believe that there are two parts to every sale. One part is what the buyer wants. The second part is what the organization needs, primarily because we're a B2B sales tool, right? To understand the buyer's wants, I again ask a simple question. I usually ask people that if you have a client who is a native Japanese speaking client and you had the ability to speak Japanese, would you not sell to them in Japanese? And the overwhelming answer again is yes, we would. Then my counter question to them would be, then why do you not sell in their personality style, but sell in your personality style? And that is the aha moment that people realize, yeah, maybe they've left a lot on the table. That is what we do as one part of a product, which we call people intelligence. We help understand the wants of the buyer, how they want to buy the product. The second part, which is the needs of the organization, there we have an account intelligence tool, which typically wherein you spend about 30 seconds of your effort and it saves you 30 hours of effort, if not 30 days of effort, in researching the account that you're selling to. It typically understands the goals, the needs, the challenges, and the impact of not achieving those goals for that organization. And then it marries it with your own solution and how you can help them. This is what we do. We, on one hand, have the people intelligence part of the product, on the other hand, have the account intelligence part of the product. And together, we call this the complete buyer intelligence. And that's what we do in Humantic. If you have any questions further, I'm happy to double down on that.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, I was fortunate enough to meet Amarpreet, the founder of and CEO of Humantic. I think it was 3 years ago at a Sandler Sales and Leadership Summit in Florida. And I was curious how Humantic started, because I've only ever experienced Humantic as a buyer first sales tool. But if I'm not mistaken, the company started with a slightly different focus, or at least the technology did. So can you sort of tell us a little bit about how the company was founded, and maybe about a little bit more about that shift and how you've ended up helping salespeople?
That's quite a bit of a story, right? The story begins with this one madman that we can call Amarpreet and his mad obsession to humanize the internet. And one sliver of it is what you see today, which is trying to humanize sales. But of course, Matt, you got us there. We did not start with the sales use case. Initially, we started with the HR use case, right? We felt that, hey, the people intelligence part of the product that we had then could be very useful in a hiring use case, because it can help the recruiters understand their candidates better and hire the right people. Fate so has it that sometimes you don't choose the market chooses you, right? So while somebody asked us for a sales use case and we had that also available, we just realized that typically the buyer's mindshare or the experience is the bigger and more acute problem. Definitely seen more traction there. That is why we've pivoted away from the HR use case, even though we do have a few customers from the early days that we yet serve. But as a company, we've shifted focus from the HR use case to the sales use case.
I'd like to go back a sec to the two components you described, the buyer intelligence and account intelligence components. Is it fair to think about this from a persona perspective and an ideal customer profile?
Well, if we have to break it down, I would break it down into the people perspective and the company perspective, right? Because in every single two components, right? You're selling to an individual or a bunch of individuals. So it's very important to understand what ticks them, right? Because there's a famous saying that says everybody buys irrationally and justifies rationally. Everybody have their own set biases and they operate a certain way, right? Like when Matt read out my profile at the starting of the show, it said that, I really care about the impact that the product can cause. Because in Humantic parlance, which is the DISC personality, I am somebody who is a CD type of a personality. So I'm pretty dominant. I really care about the impact that my work causes. So that is where it is whenever I'm in a buying equation, I look at what impact the product can cause and not just, who is the seller. I really don't care so much about relationships in a selling persona, in a selling equation context. But in real life, I really care about, relationships and everything. So that is where every individual is different. Every individual in the sales context is different. That is why we have the people intelligence to understand the individual that they're dealing with and how to sell to them in their personality style. If we go back to the Japanese analogy, in their language versus our own language, right? And of course, the other part being the company itself. That is where, why is this person or individual buying? Of course, their wants are going to be addressed through the people intelligence part of the product. But why are they buying? That is because there's a mandate from the organization. So the organization itself is an entity and it has its own needs and challenges. That is what we cover with the account intelligence part of the product. So that is where, to answer your question in short, it is the individual and the organization that we typically try to cater to.
Is there a feature that you think sort of first-time users of Humantic perhaps overlook, but could really help them in their in their day-to-day job as a salesperson?
Oh, yes. So typically we have a bunch of features, right? We of course show the buyer insights. We tell them how to personalize their cold calls. We in fact personalize their emails. As long as you put in a template or the pain points, we go ahead and produce an email in the way that they want to read, right? And of course, we help them personalize LinkedIn connection requests and in-mails, etc., etc. These are features that get very easily used. But one feature that anybody who uses vouches for, but seldom gets used because it's a slightly different use case, is what we call the buying committee maps. So till now, we were talking about how we personalize it for an individual. More than often, especially in a mid-market and above, sales use case, you are selling to not an individual, but a set of users, set of buyers, right? That is where it is very important to understand the group dynamics, not an individual persona, right? That is why we go ahead and we build something called the buying committee maps, because it's said that the best deals are lost in rooms that you don't get to enter. Then how do you win deals in rooms that you don't get to enter? By understanding the people there and building your crusaders who will fight your battle for you in your absence. So we typically in the buying committee map, we go ahead and divide the buying committee or the people into 4 quadrants. We call them the friendlies, the skeptics, the crusaders, and the neutrals. Neutrals are people who may or may not sway the deal towards you or away from you. We call that a magic quadrant because it is borderline magic. We've had, our users come back and tell. I have one user who told us that she got a deal, $1 million deal, back from the dead because she understood the buying committee and started taking the right approach with the right person. Right. So that is where it's an extremely powerful tool. But of course, it comes in large deals and not when you're prospecting, et cetera, et cetera. So it seldom gets used, but it's extremely effective. And anybody who uses it vouches by it.
I have to say, it's definitely one of my favorite features, especially when you're selling online. Because one, it's great to know who you're selling to, but if you're on a Zoom call like we are now, and especially if people don't put their cameras on, or it's a room where you can't really see everybody actually in the room, because maybe it's a conference room, I find that it's incredibly helpful to then be able to direct bits of information to different people based on where they might sit, and being able to get that insight as to how are they going to want to receive information, and where do they sit in that group. So it's definitely been one of my favorite tools since I've started using it. So I definitely recommend anybody that's getting to play in the playground, as you said earlier, that they can go and explore that.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Matt. Whenever customers speak well about the product, it's always music to my ears. I'm really glad that it's adding value to you. Thank you so much.
Continuing on that thread, as we're all well aware, sales and marketing folks, when they're looking to adopt a new tool, are all about how this is going to give them the competitive edge. So maybe I would ask you, how can learning to use a tool like Humantic AI give someone an edge compared to their peers?
That's a pretty straightforward answer in my mind, right? But for the larger audience, everybody today are using AI tools, right? What are AI tools? ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, etc., etc. And everybody are using these tools to write emails. Why? Not because it's writing better emails. Of course, it is writing better emails than majority of the individuals that they themselves would. But they're not using it for that reason. They're using it because it's easier to do it. right? So if everybody are doing it, how are you going to be different? Where is your competitive edge? First of all, if you're not even using ChatGPT to write your email, okay, then God help you, right? But if you are, then everybody else is also doing that. How are you going to get the competitive edge? The competitive edge comes by understanding your buyer better. It is not by selling more, it is by helping them buy more. So that is where Humantic comes into play. And by using Humantic, you can understand their needs, their wants, how they like to behave, what are their biases, what moves their needle. Using these, you can bespoke or personalize your sales techniques, of course, in all channels, right? Be it social, be it calls, or be it emails, so that you have the competitive edge that others may not.
Yeah, I think my interpretation of what you're saying comes down to one of Matt and my marketing heroes, Mark Schaefer, who says
Mhm.
you've got to cut through the pandemic of dull.
Yeah,
And really, that value proposition between the people intelligence and the account intelligence gives you that background to cut through that dullness.
absolutely. Like if I were to give an example, right? We have a client called Rob, and I was showcasing the product to him, and then he was like, "Hey, why don't you write a cold email to me from Humantic?" So we pulled out the product, and I just went ahead and give it a template where I'm giving my pain points and my selling points and usual pain points that a client would have. And what Humantic did was it went ahead and it picked up his latest, LinkedIn post, which was the fact that he had started this leadership position in this company. And then it congratulated him for that. Then went ahead and understood what their CEO has said in public about the problems they're facing or their goals for 2025, and married it with our offering. And of course, listed all our solutions, and then said, "Hey, can we go ahead and book a 15-minute meeting?" And I asked Rob, "Is this the email you would read?" And he said, "Absolutely, yes." Because it shows that somebody has taken time to craft that. But let's be honest, if you were to do all of this work, it would easily take you about 10-15 minutes, even if you're very fast. It would take you 10-15 minutes to research and write this email. And nobody has the time or patience to do that. That's where we come in, and we help you cut through the dullness that you spoke about, right? Where we have this pitch slapping contest that's going on, right? Where every email is a pitch, every call is a pitch, every LinkedIn request is a pitch. How do you differentiate yourself from all the pitch slapping that's happening? By going ahead and personalizing. And may I just add, it's just not personalizing it based on the data that's available in the internet, it's also personalizing based on their personality, right? Like Rob, if it's a D type, would directly want to get into the meat of the email, would not like fluff in the email, would like the email to be extremely crisp. But let's take an I type personality. That type of personality might be willing to read a longer email. They might want the email to start with a greeting. "Hey, how are you? Hope this email finds you well." But a D type personality may not need that. A D type personality is like, get to the point, right? That's where every personality has a different way of reading the email, and Humantic goes ahead and it does that kind of email personalization for you. So that's where you cut through the dullness. You cater it to the way that they want to receive it.
Excellent, thank you. You've already talked about a couple of customer examples and proof points that have shown real impact. Do you have any other favorite stories of where Humantic's really shown massive impact?
Oh, that there are way too many, right? So, for anybody who's interested, we have a YouTube channel. Over there, we have a playlist with, at this point, I think about 32 videos where we have CROs, CEOs of different organizations talking about the impact that we've caused for them. We work with a publicly listed company in a DevSecOps publicly listed company. While we worked with them, they initially said that they wanted a 30% pipeline improvement, right? but we ended up delivering 49% for one group and 151% for the other group. That is where sometimes we say that too good to be true, right? Because of course, on paper, it looks outlandish, right? But that's where we have all of this data over there. We have these people claiming it themselves. So I'd really encourage any of your listeners who are interested to go ahead and check that out. And we also work with another publicly listed company called Domo, right? And they are CDO Mohammed Asir measured and reported that they saw a 37% improvement in their win rates by using Humantic. I think Jeevan Fox, who's the CRO of AE Studio, said that their conversion rate was around 15%, but after using Humantic, it moved to 50%, right? So that's like more than a 3x. So I have stories after stories that I can share as to how it's been positively impacting people. Anybody who's interested in further understanding this should just go to the YouTube channel and look at the playlist. They'll get all the data points there.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can pull on that red thread a little bit. The audience for our podcast is mostly focused on what has been called the most skeptical audience on the planet, the
Okay.
scientists and the clinicians. Do you
Uh-huh.
see any unique challenges in applying personality AI to technical audiences like that?
In short, the answer is no, primarily because the only limitations that we may face is with respect to data, right? How much publicly available data is there for us to go ahead and predict whatever we are predicting, right? Usually I get this question, another variant of this question would be, hey, does this work well for big companies? Does it not work well for small companies? So my answer is that, hey, we are agnostic. We are agnostic with company size, with people, etc., because we are an AI company. And what does an AI model need? We have a proprietary machine learning model. What does our model need? It needs data. As long as there is data, we can predict. And as long as we can predict, somebody can use that and apply it in their line of work. So that is where, in short, the answer is no, because we are agnostic of their profession.
And can one of those data sources be their publications? So PubMed, for example.
Absolutely, right?
Mm.
So we typically right now do not pull PubMed data, but if let's say they publish something and they want to use that for analysis, we have options where they can go ahead and add additional text that we will go through and refine our predictions. Or if there's no other data available, just use that to make the prediction.
Makes sense. Thanks.
So when I've shown a few people to a Humantic AI, they've sort of thought it's a bit magic. And also there's been a few people that have sort of thought, wow, where are you getting this data? What concerns about privacy, ethics, and sort of compliance are there?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'm sort of curious your stance on sort of that, unpacking that whole sort of AI privacy, ethics, and compliance, and Humantic stance on that, because obviously you're analyzing people in a way that maybe could be uncomfortable.
We totally hear you, right? And that is where we are extremely prudent about data privacy, ethics, compliance, etc., etc. Currently, all our analysis is on publicly available data, right? If they have publicly put it out there, we are using that to analyze whatever we are analyzing about an individual. For any good reason, let us say that they are unhappy or uncomfortable with the analysis, right? And they do not want us to analyze them. Then we have a simple opt-out option where they can go to our website and give their LinkedIn URL or their email address or their name and say, hey, I want to opt out. And we will make sure that we do not provide their analysis to anybody else. That is the right thing to do, right? And we really care about people and their privacy. So we want to do the right thing. With respect to compliance, of course, we are GDPR and SOC 2 compliant. That is a testimony to the fact that we truly care about our customers and their privacy. So, in a nutshell, we are very vigilant about this. So whenever we receive feedback, we huddle up internally and try to think and work towards making sure that it's a safer place for everyone.
So I'd like to take a page from your background and ask you to think about your spidey sense.
Okay.
Where do you see the future of sales in the next 2 to 3 years and the role of AI in that?
The future that I see, or that we see as an organization, right? It's a collective future that we are seeing, is that the 9 out of 10 tools today are about sellers' productivity. It's helping you send more emails, helping you make more phone calls, helping you automate, LinkedIn email campaign, etc., right? But that is where we've taken the contrarian view. We've gone on the other side, and we are saying, hey, we are going to solve the buyer's mind share. We are going to humanize selling. We are going to ensure that we are not about selling more, but we are going to ensure that people buy more. We are not the more people, we are the better people. That is the future that we are betting on. That, hey, I know the general audience is going to get more done, but we want to get things done better, right? So that's what our spidey senses tell us. And that's the future that we are trying to create, right? Because there's this saying, I don't know who said it. They say, what's the best way of predicting the future? And the answer is by creating it. So here we are trying to create the future. Let's see how that pans out.
So I think it said a little bit differently, you're looking at lifetime value of a particular account.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We are not about transactions. That is where during a qualifying process, because we sell our product to someone else, right? So even we qualify. So why we are qualifying, one of the things that we see is whether they're doing velocity sales or long tail sales. If they're doing velocity sales, we tell them this is not a product for you, because in velocity sales, you have to play the volume game. You have to play the more game. You have to send so many emails. You have to sell so many times. So wherever the sales cycle is longer, typically it's mid-market and above. The sales cycle is anywhere between 3 to 6 months, can be a year. And here, you don't know why you lost the deal and when you lose the deal. There is where people do want to leave any stones unturned to ensure that they're doing everything in their strength to make a sale happen. Those are the type of people who can appreciate this better. And those are the people who really care about the lifetime value. They really care about the churn, etc., etc. So those are the people that we try to sell to.
Yeah, so just wanted to interject for our listeners. Ro is talking to all of you folks who have robotics types of products, who have high-end scientific instrument type of products. So listen up. I think this is a really valuable point for that sales and marketing cycle.
And sticking with the sort of the Spider-Man sort of themed questions, this is a tool that, with great power comes great responsibility. And so if I was a chief, a chief revenue officer or a head of sales, what is the one metric you think that I should retire based on, when I implement Humantic AI? And what's the one that they should adopt instead?
Maybe I wouldn't limit it to a single metric, but I would yet continue the overarching theme that I've been speaking about over here, right? I would tell them to stop measuring volume, right? Because unfortunately, the nature of the beast today is such that any BDR is measured on how many reaching out to, how many contacts is he reaching out to, how many emails is he sending, how many calls is he or she making. Very similarly with AEs, how many accounts are they handling? What is the entire pipeline rate in which pipeline coverage, et cetera, et cetera. That's where I would request CROs to look at this slightly differently. I would request them to measure the number of personalized emails or personalized touch points that you're making, whether it could be a call or LinkedIn or email, or even in a meeting, right? Whenever you're going into a meeting, how prepared are you? Do you know each of those individuals? Do you know all, collectively how they behave? Do you know what is the needs of the entire organization? Gone are the days where you you just Google out something or you go to their website and pull out 2 data points. Today, everybody are prepared. Go ahead, make sure that you stop those vanity metrics and start looking at these value metrics. Because Amar has a very good analogy over here, right? He usually speaks about something called the Dust Bowl effect, which happened in around the 1930s in parts of the US, where typically people resorted to over farming, and then that left the soil vulnerable to wind erosion. And today, with the incoming of AI, sales could have that same dust bowl effect, where people are selling too much, too many outreach, and that could really make it a very worrying situation. So that's where I would request every CRO to move away from these vanity metrics and move towards value metrics, and see how that works out for them.
I really like that analogy to the Dust Bowl. You're right. We're being inundated with lots of emails and lots of outreaches that are dull and not on point. So if I had to explain the value of Humantic AI to a skeptical colleague, what's the most straightforward way to frame it so that they'll give it a fair shot?
In my humble opinion, what works best is my Japanese buyer analogy. Okay. 9 out of 10 times people get it and they have an aha moment. So I would encourage you to go ahead and use the Japanese analogy, right? If we would speak in somebody's language, let's be honest, we all sellers are used to persona-based selling, where we typically try and understand the persona. We are like, hey, let's try and understand the culture. Let's try and understand their demography. Let's try and understand XYZ. Everybody have been doing that. But it's time to start selling not only to the persona, but also to the person, because each individual is different. And with AI, you can do more. So all I would tell people is to go ahead and try and sell to the persona, to the person, and not only the persona. So maybe that is how you could explain it to them.
Great, thank you.
That was brilliant, Ro. So many good questions that you've answered today. But my final question is possibly the easiest one of them all.
Okay.
Where should people go if they want to learn more about yourself and Humantic?
Well, we are humantic.ai, humantic.ai. Please find us on our website. We go by the same handle on all social media accounts. So you could find us there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you for the really fun discussion today. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for
Jasmine,
sharing the Humantic AI advantage as well as your Spidey sense. We really appreciate it.
well, Jasmine and Matt, thank you so much for having me over. You've been great hosts, and I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.